The Dallas Cowboys have been really good at hitting on early draft picks, and when you get a top player at the position, you typically like to keep those guys around. In the 2020 NFL Draft, they hit on 2 cornerstone pieces with their first 2 picks, Ceedee Lamb in round 1 and Trevon Diggs in round 2, which means their rookie contracts are almost up, and it's already time to start thinking about paying these guys. But they also hit on a right tackle of the future that is also going to be looking for a deal after 2023, leaving this offseason as a big stepping stone towards the team's future. There are a couple of guys that the Cowboys want to keep around, but it's going to take the Joneses writing those checks to make it happen. In today's video, let's look at the big decisions the Cowboys front office is going to have to make this offseason and how these decisions could change everything. Before we start, there are multiple guys to talk about, so if you could only pay one of these 3 guys, who would it be? Ceedee Lamb, Trevon Diggs, or Terence Steele? Comment one of those names down below in the comments, and while you do, let's get into it. In April, right before the NFL draft, Stephen Jones was talking about the Cowboys planning on signing Lamb, Diggs, and Steele. Jones said, as we move forward, that'll become a bigger priority here as we move past the draft. We've historically signed a lot of guys during that training camp period to extensions, but guys like Ceedee Lamb and Diggs are certainly on our radar in terms of guys that we'd love to have around here for another 5-6 years, whatever that turns out to be. So in this video, let's start out with talking about Trevon Diggs. Since joining the Cowboys, Diggs has gotten his fair share of criticisms, but what you can't take away from the now 4th-year corner is his ability to be a ball hawk, snagging 17 interceptions in his first 3 years. Last year, we saw a drop in those interception numbers, but an uptick in his coverage ability. He became more of your typical lockdown corner that teams covet in the NFL. Since Diggs was a second-round pick in 2020, the Cowboys don't have the luxury of picking up his 5th-year option like they did with Ceedee Lamb, meaning after the 2023 season, Diggs would hit the open market, assuming the team didn't use the franchise tag. And I've seen a few numbers thrown around that gives us a good idea of what a Trevon Diggs extension could look like. The Draft Network put out an article that said Diggs could be in the ballpark of $21.5 million annually, which would put him as the highest paid cornerback annually in the entire NFL. Before you panic, just because you don't consider Diggs the best corner in the NFL doesn't mean teams won't pay him that money. The salary cap goes up considerably every year, and it won't be long before someone else jumps him for the top paid cornerback spot. That's honestly the least of my concerns. But in 2024, that would be a record-setting number per year for Diggs. It's less about how much he's getting paid relative to other cornerbacks and how much of your salary cap he's taking up. While the Cowboys focus on getting a deal done with Diggs, they'll also be eyeing a contract with Ceedee Lamb, who has had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons and had a quiet 900 yards in his rookie year. Last season, Lamb racked up 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns, easily putting him in the top echelon of NFL wide receivers. To get an idea of what a Lamb extension could look like, look no further than the NFC East with Terry McLaurin, who got a 3-year deal worth $22.7 million annually. Then guys like AJ Brown, who earns $25 million per year on his new deal in Philadelphia. I think you take those into consideration, Lamb sits in the ballpark of $22 to $25 million per year, and in my opinion, the perfect price for a number 1 wide receiver. Lamb's contract isn't going to be record-setting, but the Cowboys are going to have to cut a pretty big check. If Dak Prescott's prediction of Ceedee Lamb being the best wide receiver in the NFL in 2023 comes true, that would be a bargain for everyone involved. And that's where you benefit from trying to sign Lamb right now. If he turns around and is the best wide receiver in football next year, you're going to be looking at $28, $29, $30 million per year, up there with Tyreek Hill. So if you get that deal done now for $25 million per year, it might look really good a year from now. Now on to Terence Steele, kind of the forgotten guy up to this point, but a major piece to this Cowboys offensive line. He did get injured last season, but has only improved since the Cowboys signed him as an undrafted free agent in 2020. He's been consistently getting better year over year, and we haven't heard much about a possible extension coming his way, where I'm guessing he's going to command $12 to $16 million per year on the open market. Because let's be honest, it's hard to find good offensive linemen in the NFL. But if the Cowboys want to try to get a deal done sooner before he hits the open market, much like they've done with their offensive linemen in the past, that number could be significantly lower. Steele has been a force on the right side with Zach Martin, especially in the run game. Personally, I'd like to see the team get a deal done with him as well. But as of right now, it seems like he's been the forgotten guy up to this point in the media and in the Cowboys front office. In my opinion, the first deal that gets done this offseason is Ceedee Lamb. I think a deal gets done with Lamb before either of the two guys that I mentioned, despite Lamb still having the 5th-year option and franchise tag years. I think the team views him as their true number one, and you can't just let a guy like that walk out the door, especially if you think he still has room for major improvements. So let's play a little game. You can only sign 2 of these guys back for the future. Pick 2 and comment them down below. Is it your number 1 wide receiver in Lamb, your number 1 corner in Trevon Diggs, or your starting right tackle in Terence Steele? You can pick 2, comment those names down below, and let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Go, hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave.